Greek slaves, cattle for a civilized world. Let's begin with the lowest rung. If you were born a slave in ancient Greece, your life was worth as little as the soil you walked on. The Greek city-states may have celebrated democracy, but the truth, they didn't extend it to everyone. From as early as the 7th century BCE, slaves were the backbone of Greek society, building their temples, serving their meals, even educating their children. In classical Athens, 5th century BCE, they were treated no better than tools. Women often forced into sexual servitude, and men they toiled day and night, their sweat and blood, fueling the very society that treated them as nothing more than property. To rebel, it meant death, a gruesome slow death that sent a message to anyone thinking of rising up. A life without hope, a life without rights. That was the reality for Greek slaves. Greek temples, shrines of human sacrifice. The grandeur of the Parthenon, a temple that still stands today, inspiring awe and wonder. But behind its columns, things were darker than you can imagine. Constructed between 447 and 432 BCE, the Parthenon was a crowning achievement of Athenian architecture. But across the Greek world, from the Archaic period, 700 BCE to the Classical era, temples were often sites for gruesome rituals, blood sacrifices to please the gods. And it wasn't just animals. In Sparta, particularly during the 7th and 6th centuries BCE, it was common to offer human lives. Infants born with any deformities left to die on the cliffs, discarded like unwanted trash. For the ancient Greeks, the gods demanded nothing less than perfection. And if you couldn't meet that standard, you were expendable. Greek medicine, the doctors who played God. Sick in ancient Greece, the cures were often worse than the disease. By the 5th century BCE, Greek physicians like Hippocrates were respected in their time, but known for bizarre, sometimes deadly treatments. No anesthesia for surgery. Instead, they relied on sharp metal tools, and the patient's screams, broken bones, just a splash of wine, and they'd be tied with nothing but rags for wounds. They packed the cuts with a mixture of honey and crushed spiders. And the gods didn't exactly inspire mercy. Doctors turned to divine intervention rather than science. Was it a broken leg? Call on Asclepius. Was it fever? Let's pray to Apollo. What was the result? Many patients didn't walk out of their treatments alive. Greek love, a marriage built on power, not passion. The Greeks known for their romantic myths, but their idea of love, far darker than the legends would have you believe. Marriage wasn't about love. It was about power, influence, and breeding the next generation of warriors and philosophers. From the Archaic period through the Hellenistic era, young girls, sometimes barely into puberty, were married off to older men for political advantage. Divorce easier than saying, "I'm bored." Men could dispose of wives like old sandals, and a woman's role to bear sons, to serve, to obey. Greek punishments, a world of torture and terror. What happened if you crossed the line in ancient Greece? Punishments were brutal. The infamous punishment of damio ad bestis, being thrown to the beasts, was more Roman, but Greek city-states had their own horrors. By the 5th century BCE, criminals, slaves, and enemies of the state could face public execution, but sometimes the punishment was slower, more torturous, stoning, flogging, even being boiled alive. The Greeks didn't believe in swift justice. They believed in punishment that made an example, a reminder to all who dared defy the gods or the state. The Greek goddesses, not all divine mercy. We idolize the Greek goddesses, Athena, Artemis, Hera. But these women weren't symbols of purity or grace. Athena, known for her wisdom, yes, but she also supported the brutal massacre of the Trojans depicted in myths circulating widely by the 8th century BCE. Artemis, she demanded blood sacrifices even from those who were loyal to her, and Hera, she turned women into beasts, exacting revenge on her husband's lovers in twisted, savage ways. Greek goddesses ruled with cruelty just as much as their male counterparts. Their love was fickle, their wrath unforgiving. Spartan infanticide, the culture of survival of the fittest. Sparta, a city-state known for its warriors, but behind its disciplined facade was a brutal truth. Spartan society thrived on perfection. Weakness was a death sentence. As early as the 7th century BCE, babies born with deformities were taken away and left to die. No tears were shed, no regrets. The Spartan ideal was simple. Only the strong survive. It didn't matter if you were a baby or a veteran soldier. If you couldn't meet the standard, you were left behind. Greek philosophy, wisdom, or madness. Greek philosophy is often praised as the foundation of Western thought. But the truth, some of these great minds were obsessed with ideas that in modern terms would be considered insane. Plato, writing in the 4th century BCE, advocated for the elimination of the family, suggesting children be raised in state-run institutions. Aristotle, a student of Plato, believed that women were inherently inferior to men. And then there was Socrates, whose pursuit of truth led to his execution by hemlock in 399 BCE. For all their wisdom, these philosophers lived and died in a world that was harsh, unforgiving, and sometimes utterly cruel. Greek gladiators fighting for glory, dying for sport. Think the gladiators were only a Roman phenomenon? Think again. The Greeks had their own brutal versions of combat. By the Hellenistic period, 3rd to 1st centuries BCE arena-style events were held across the Greek world. The arena was where heroes were made and broken. But most of these warriors weren't heroes. They were slaves fighting for their lives in brutal, bloody contests. Victory meant nothing. Defeat, a cruel death. For the Greek spectators, it wasn't about honor. It was about blood, and the more blood, the better. A girl born in Athens. No one celebrated the birth of a daughter. Not in a house where grain was measured. Not in a world where sons meant power and daughters meant expense. A baby girl didn't just arrive with soft cries, she arrived with dread. If she was lucky, she was swaddled. If not, she was taken outside, placed in a clay jar, left beneath the sun, or behind a temple wall. This practice of exposure dates back to at least the 5th century BCE, considered legal and even pious. It wasn't called murder, it was called exposure, a religiously acceptable form of disposal. If wolves or cold didn't claim her, slave traders might. Either way, she vanished from memory. But survival wasn't mercy, it was a different kind of sentence. By 14, her body belonged to a man twice her age, her name disappeared behind his, her voice behind closed doors. Her job was to bleed silently, breathe quietly, and die early. No school, no politics, no theater, a ghost in her own home. If she laughed too loud, rumors would follow. If she was raped, her chastity was questioned. If she cheated, she was done. A man might walk away from infidelity with a shrug. A woman, she walked into exile or the grave. This wasn't tragedy. This was normal. Disability, that was a death sentence. A twisted foot, a cleft lip, a child that didn't cry right. That was all it took. Newborns in Sparta examined by the state, since at least the 7th century BCE were judged by warriors, not by doctors. If the baby didn't meet the standards of future soldierhood, it was tossed, not metaphorically, literally thrown off Mount Taygetus like garbage no one wanted to claim. They said it was for the good of the city, but it wasn't mercy, it was efficiency.